I'm so happy to, finally meet you and in your studio. Thank you so much for such a wonderful walkthrough. From weaving textiles to interior designing and now an owner of an art gallery. So how has your journey been?
Firstly, welcome to Design House by Supraja and Kadari Art Gallery. I'm glad to have you and your team here at our studio and gallery, and I love showing you around and excited as a 20-year-old when I'm showing my studio and explaining and talking about the details. So weaving textile was like my dream as a teenager. I thought that would be my profession, and I had a baby boom at home, and I studied textiles as one of my majors in my bachelor's. But interior design was more of a hobby and passion, and just like fiddling things at home, which ended up becoming my profession. Little did I know that life has its own plans, and I'm someone who really goes with the flow and sees there's something. Let's go. Let's see what's there for me. So that's how interior design happened to me at a very young age. All of 21, I had my practice started. 21 and just about 3 weeks old. And here we are, 3 decades later. I'm still driven, enthusiastic, excited to get up and work, to go to sites, looking forward to it every single day.
So in this last 3 decades, you must have also come through a lot of time which were difficult, which are not easy to. So what led you to stay, to come out strong again?
So I think difficulties were not necessarily professional. I think to balance your whole life, right? And different phases of your life, your needs on time, with your family, with yourself, the act of balancing that, and especially being a woman, a mother, a wife, it takes a lot. It's not all said and done. Women have to do a lot more to be able to run a business. And, you'll see in design, then the auto partnerships firm between husband and wife. That's very different when women achieve with your spouse handling or being an important part of the business, vis-a-vis completely women-led. You have to, no matter what, run the office. You do not have a support system. Even if you have another partner who's a woman, it's different. But I've been run it on my own. So yes, they were definitely challenges, and more I would think for personal life than work challenges per se.
Was it like kind of always trying to balance work and life? Or
when I was in my 30s, I think, so I started my practice in my 20s, so 20s, 30s, 40s, and now in my early 50s. If I look at it 3 decades, in my 20s and before we had our daughter, I had all the time in the world. I didn't even care about it. Sunday, I could just work on it. Once I had my child, then making sure that putting the balance together as a mother, which is a huge honor and responsibility. When you bring in a child, and my father always said, what you could give to your nation is a good child. You raise a child well, that is what you do to the nation. So it was a very important thing that for me, that I raise our daughter very well-rounded. My husband and me both. I think I really tried hard in my 30s, balancing work, life, social life, travel. But I must admit, I really beat myself to it, trying to do everything. When I look back at life, I feel I always moved from one thing to the other thing to the other without a pause. So in the last few years, especially the pandemic, is really gave me those 2-3 months to be home, because I was never home that long. I don't even remember when, like maybe school holidays, because in college also I did some internship, did some work, and started work immediately after I finished college. So that pause, I feel, is very required. And that is what I will advise to anybody young, that those pauses give you the energy, the time to reflect on, to move forward, and not to move from one. I'm someone who multitasks a lot. So I just like fut. But just because I did it, I don't recommend that. I grew up thinking, a definition of what a good life is, whether it's success, whether it's name, whether it's fame, whether, a few things. That definition of success is very different. You see, it was very different when we just come out from independence. It lasted a few decades. But no. And I can say that here, that I think work should not be your life. Work is a part of life. And I think success is overrated. You should be happy from within with what you do. You should feel joyful, blissful. Every morning you should get up and you should feel like you should be thriving, not continuously trying to do something. That I somehow feel, you were asking me, do I have a dream? My dreams are not really personal. My dreams are for our country, for the world. I feel nobody in the world should have a life of just struggle. पूरी उम्र बीत जाती है रोटी कपड़ा मकान करते करते. Nobody should do that. All of us, I call my life as a trip to earth. This is a journey. We should all enjoy it. Yes, it will have its obstacles. You go hiking, there'll be obstacles, but you enjoy it, right? I feel that's how life should be. And that's what I wish, in whichever capacity I can make a change, that's what I like to do.
Looks like you're living that life.
After I've learned to pause, I think, well, when I was really doing a lot, I thought I was doing a lot and I was very happy. It was not that I was unhappy. But as you mature with life and saying, no, there's other ways to live. But I had a blast while I was doing. It gave me a high on the number of flights I did, the number of projects I did, or, just speaking in forums or just being invited, just a multiple host of things I was doing, and I could just be, I still remember once I came back, I went to Dubai, I went to Nagpur, literally, I went to Dubai, came back, went to Nagpur, came back, went to America, did 3 cities in America, came back. So in a period of 10 days, I had traveled so much. And I didn't feel bad for myself. I got a high on that. But when I look back, you shouldn't be doing that to your body or your mind. You can push yourself. But why should one push yourself so much?
Okay. So don't push yourself that hard.
Yeah.
Try to create a balance.
Yeah.
And take some pauses in between.
But I must admit, I really enjoyed all that. Yeah. It's not that I didn't. But I reflect and I think was that required? Could I have paused?
But then maybe those things were important to do so that you realize this, and
everything is an experience. I can say this today because I did that. If I hadn't said that, I wouldn't have known the importance of pauses.
Yes. Talking about your projects, when we look at Hyderabad and when we look at the interior designers and, your name is something which just really comes up, right? You've created that. You have worked for it. You've done it, right? So we want to know some of the memorable projects that you'd like to share.
So, Ritika, I am totally blessed that at a very early age in my career, I got projects, I got visibility, I got the recognition, which in my early 20s, in the 90s in Hyderabad, was something I'm really, really blessed and honored. And 3 decades later, if my name is synonymous with design in Hyderabad and, at a national level, it comes up with the city's name. I'm very, very humbled and grateful. I don't take this for granted, I must say. I really recognize this as a privilege to be. So in my early days, we did some amount of commercial and residential work. My heart was in residential work, but it took me a few years to crack the first residential years, precisely about 5 years before I did a good residence. And once I did a good residence, I said, this is what I want to do. Because just the kind of person I am, I put in a lot of thought, detail, and I feel, again, it's really a privilege to be part of someone's house design because you are affecting how they live. You are influencing them, you are making it comfortable for them, you're understanding them, and you're such an integral part of life. So many of my clients have said, we think of you every day. I remember one client came about 5, 6 years, 10 years back to give a wedding card of their son. And we had done their house about 10 years back. And I hadn't really connected with them. And when they just out of the blue called, and their husband and I both came personally to give the wedding invite. And I was like, I was a little surprised also. And you know what they said? We think of you every day. You've done our house. How can we forget you?
Oh God.
So I've got and I've had so many clients treat me as family, and I have so many clients who are such good friends today. And that again is my biggest reward
of course.
is the love, the friendships I have gained, and created in this process. In my clients, of course, with fellow professionals, with so many trade people, the respect and love I get is amazing.
And I'm sure their kids are going to come back to
Yes, they are. So early in my 20s, I got a lot of projects. So my first residential break was in 95, which was for someone well known. And she had that time got furniture from America. In again 2000, someone had got even hardware from America. So I was getting exposed to things internationally, because this is all you didn't get that much international exposure unless you went, right? So I learned from my client all the biggest brands, the designs, the values, all that, what was happening in the West also back then in the mid-90s onwards. And again in the mid-90s, one of the large projects which was really good then is one of these Pega family palaces, which they sold half of it to one of our clients who made a club out of it.
Okay.
And when I went to see, the palace was half occupied, like few rooms only. And I'm not exaggerating, there were bats in the house. And I still remember the Muslim lady, she looked at me, they were all men. And she was so surprised that I'm a woman who's working, and that I haven't forgotten. I wish I had pictures of that place because, I didn't document much how it was. There were bats in that property. So again, that project was really good for us. Then we did a lot of residences also, which gave us a lot of boost and gave us a lot of work. We'd done Suresh Reddy, who was a speaker of the local assembly here. And there were another minimal house we had done in early 2000s, which was really a hit, got covered by all magazines. It changed a few hands. It was sold multiple times, and it still stands, looks gorgeous from outside. I haven't been inside. I slowly drifted into residential. I got known for that. But clients of mine whose residences I did, they also reached out to ask for some commercial work. So we've done an eye hospital for someone, we've done furniture stores, we've done some restaurants, but it's random. Actually, there was a patch where we did a lot of boutiques. Some of the best boutiques in Hyderabad are done by us about 20 years back. And every project, I always question status quo. I have never been a person believing in trends. As a person, the way I dress, the way I live my life is all timeless and classic, I'm not someone who believes in buying something, using it and throwing it. It doesn't go with where we are saying we want to be green, but then you change your phone every 2 years. Like the phone I'm using now is about 4.5 years old. We always brought something new to the table. Let me tell you, we did a restaurant here, which was for South Indian food, Ralsim actually. We did our storytelling using craft of, it's called leather puppetry. On leather, you make holes drawing. We created on one side three-dimensional Rama, Krishna, Sita, Hanuman, Lakshman lives, larger than life hanging. And one side we did storytelling of Mahabharata and stitched it together. And then we did details of lights. So like that, every project we do, we try and do a storytelling, whether it's for a commercial, and if it's residential, it is your lives, how you want to raise your children, what do you want to teach them. And I do believe strongly that design has a lot of impact. Art has a lot of impact on how you feel in your heart. And to me, I always say that design is not something which you walk into a room and see with open eyes. It is something what you feel under your skin with your eyes closed. Every room has an emotional quotient to deliver. It's a space responsibility to relax you. It is a responsibility of the space to help you wind down or help you charge. So in design, you create a space, you use the color, you use the materials, the texture, the layout, the natural light to do that to you. What a small child wants from his room is very different than a busy, successful 40-year-old wants from his room. Right? So you address them different. For a small child, you want to energize and feel, But for someone who's come back after a hard day's work, 10 flights in a week, or whatever, 5 flights a week, you want to be like, I want to calm down. So how do you address that space so that the person relaxes? So I work from the feeling, the vibe you need in a space and to design. I don't work the other way. I don't say, aapko ye chahiye. Where are you in your life? So a different stage of life where you are is an absolutely important criteria to what the design has to be. If you're a 20-year-old, it's different. If you're 30-year-old, it's different. If you're 40-year-old, it's different. If you have 5 children, it's different. If it's 1 child, it's different. The space, the communication has to be right? So, and in design, space planning is my absolute favorite. To make sure all this works, the dynamics of the family work. I always tell clients when we're doing a house, I always try and go see the existing house they're living in and tell them what's going to happen. When you move from a certain size and your house is 3 times bigger, the first thing is going to happen is that chances of you running into each other, spending time with each other, default comes down. आप लिफ्ट लेके अपने फ्लोर चले गए अपने, तो आपको पता ही नहीं है whether your kid came back, grown up kid, right? School बच्चा तो you will know. So like that. So then it's important to create spaces, create activities consciously that the family comes together because there are shared requirements which are there, and not to make everybody so independent that it's an effort to kind of meet
put
up
them
for
together.
a meal or do things together.
So what I understand is that every space is meant to serve, and it has to be designed to serve that purpose.
Yes.
Right. So now coming to art again, and I want to know about your art gallery. Like, we are also sitting in a part of it, but I know it's a large gallery down there, and it looks like you have a lot of plants. Yeah.
So in the last few years, the bit of the pauses has helped me identify at every point of your life, your drive is different, your dream is different, your goal is different. So one of the things that I realized in the last 5 years is that I had some goals in my 20s, 30s, 40s. And I realized that I have surpassed my goals a few times over. Like when I started as a 20-year-old in 90s in India, when we were looking westward, I have now moved to looking eastward and inwards. It was westward and outside, it's in west. So there's a lot of change. I also realized I moved my goalposts many times. So here then I question, say, what are my goals? Am I changing my goals looking at some 30-year-olds? I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do now. So what is it what I want to do which makes me a fulfilling, which is one of the absolute important criteria is the time with family. I have an aging mother-in-law. So do I have time to be with my mom? Would I like this if my daughter didn't have time for me when I was aging? So those are important questions I've asked myself, and I'm trying to get a good balance of work life. And while I have said, and I say that again, that work is a part of your life to express yourself. Work is not life. Work should be 8 hours a week, a maximum of 5 days. Right? We chose to make work 5 days or 6 days. You could imagine if the work was only 3 days. Right? It was our choice as humans.
Would you have wanted that in your 30s or 20s, or you wanted a day to be maybe 48 hours?
When people asked me that, how do you manage so much, so I would say I have 25 hours, and people for a minute would pause and think, it's because of my ability to multitask. Like I said, I'm a Piscean, 2 fishes opposite directions. I can move from this, that, and just do them with absolute ease.
Yeah, looks like that. Yes. So you have had clients from millennials to corporates and all sorts of people, right? So what are the suggestions? We see young designers struggling a lot in client communication. Do you have any suggestions for them?
So young designers also have struggled in communication because overall, I think as the world, and especially India, we over communicate, right? Baat pe WhatsApp, baat pe. I really wish WhatsApp is not free. Free things cause a lot of problem, When a text message costed and a call costed more, people made a call and talked to the point and finished things. Abhi free hai na, people just keep
over communicating.
Yes, and that over communication, like in a WhatsApp in a group, client ka group hai, over communication mein you lose some of the important messages. So if you can control that, even I haven't done. If somebody does, please do let me know how to do. The over communication is a problem today, and also. But it's very nice that social media has opened up a lot of things for everybody. Everything is democratic, right? Everybody has access to information, access to things, which is in a way nice. It just gives equal opportunities to people. But the problem in this, what happens is too much information, half-baked information. So your clients keep coming up, showing you things. So with younger designers, it's that much more problem for them to deal. With anybody's experience, you know how to deal with that. So I also have clients sharing Pinterest, giving me requirements, but I know how to deal with it. It doesn't, pull me down. Like I remember at one time, everybody in Hyderabad would just complain about Vastu. Vastu is such a pain. Vastu is such a pain. For me, I said Vastu is exactly a challenge as any other challenge at site. I work around it. But Pinterest is a harder challenge to work around because people have a 3D image and unko waisa chahiye. Bhale in your context of a space, it may not work. So that is a problem even for experienced designer. But yeah, younger designers, communication is a problem, and I don't have an easy answer for it. But I think if you have a good thought and you put it right and you communicate it well, you say it, and you say it with a conviction, the other person feels it apart from your voice, right? People can see that you're sure. People see you're confident. And you, with your track record, you prove it. That you're here to do, and if you're experimenting, you're very welcome to tell the client, look, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm not sure how this will come, but if it comes out well, it's great. If it doesn't, I need your support to say, hey, go ahead, Supraja, experiment. I have your back. And I always tell that to my clients. You come to me for creativity. You come for new ideas, absolute fresh ideas. They've never been done. They've never been tested, which means I am experimenting with, of course, which comes with a certain experience, but still I'm trying something new. So there is a slim chance that it may not necessarily come, and I monitor it closely. And while I'm doing my design, if I want to change, because I see this needs to be improved or better, then you don't question me ki aapne to parson aise kiya tha. I've come to site and I feel this place can do with a change. Like when I style my places, I do art, accessories, I use them actually for correction. आप एक रूम करते हैं, उसके बाद आपको लगता है इसमें लाइट कम है, इसमें हाइट ज्यादा है, then you do the things to, you put an art which is taller, shorter, wider, you do things. So I also, in styling, I don't just finish the place. I correct what I feel when I stand there, and I'm one of those designers who don't stand and do a site visit. Even as a khali, I will put a chair, client to dining chair, बैठ के यहाँ दिखेगा, client bed पे से room ऐसे दिखेगा. Then your perspective of the room changes. And that is something I highly recommend to designers. You'll be surprised how a room looks if you sit down and look at that corner vis-a-vis stand. Your eye level changes.
Absolutely. So do you think, after listening to this part of the thing, I think that a lot of designers today tend to do a lot of visualizations on computers. So you have been emphasizing on real experience and real understanding of a space. Do you recommend designers to just go and experience a space and do some corrections as well, even if they have done their best?
So you have to visualize on the computer, and it's a luxury to be able to do it now, to visualize, and then you've got these 3D walkthroughs. You can see your services, your structure. It's beautiful. You should 100% do it well. But having said that, feeling the volume, feeling the scale is something you need to do it physically. And the more you do it, the more thorough you get, right? Even with 30 years of experience, it's not like I don't do site visits. I do plenty of site visits, right? And there are times I do site visits without a client also. And I'll put a kursi, I will ask for a cup of tea, I will see, absorb, I'll feel the space. I want to feel it under my skin, right? I want to feel how this shape is coming.
So, you have mentioned about earlier it was outside and the West, and now it's inside and India probably, right? So would you elaborate that one and how you are taking this aspect of it in relation to your art gallery?
So again, like I said, I think because of a good 200 years of colonization and making us all feel brown skin, illiterate, gawar, whatever. As a nation, we looked outward, we looked westward. But actually, if you see, as a nation, we looked inwards. Our importance on, if you really go into, and I'm fairly spiritual, religious, all that, whether it's a chanting, whether it is so many of our rituals, they were more inward, right? So when you And I have traveled the world a lot. I mean, my passports, so many passports are filled up. Pura ghoom ke na, you come back and you're like, treasure is here, the knowledge is here. So I have a whole presentation which I called, what do I call that? It's about design and traditional wisdom and design. And how sitting like this is not the best thing to eat food or sit for your body.
Maybe sitting down?
Sitting, yes. So whether it's your, what's good for your body. So there was so much wisdom we could have shared with the world, which we've lost. But it's still up to us to practice those and share with the world.
So, with India being so important now in the global platform, is art also going to get its due, recognition? Indian art, Indian traditional craft, and all that. What's your take on that?
So, craft and art are two different things. I think it's on us again that we didn't take our craft forward. We stuck to craft as its original form. We didn't evolve the craft to design as per the era, as per the needs, which is happening now. I'm very happy, even if it's happening late, but it's happening. Like I was telling you with the leather puppetry, we work with a craftsman from Anantapur. And when I was asking him whether his kids are learning, so he said he's taught his kids, but his son is an engineer. And I got him to bring his son once to Hyderabad, and I told him that, look, don't not do this. But the fact is that every girl wants to marry an engineer, marry a doctor, marry a software man. Nobody's interested in marrying a craftsman. Unless we as a country have given them enough respect, enough money, why will they choose this as a profession? Respect and money, both, not just money. So, but I'm very happy. A lot of my fellow professionals are using craft in their works. And a lot of crafts.
So, talking about clients sharing Pinterest, files and all that. A designer who is not so seasoned and not so experienced, what is your advice to the young designer? How should he or she deal with that kind of a client?
So, I can't really put myself in those shoes because I don't know what it is to not have experience, and then you're shown these pictures and then you think, yeah, it's doable. You don't necessarily know the scale, you don't necessarily know you understand everything to see whether it's doable or not. And you don't know how to say no to a client when you're very young, because then the client will say no to you, right? So it is a difficult sport. I'm not too sure I'm the best one to advise, because I cannot even put myself in those shoes and think, kaise karenge? But I guess, again, with their own conviction, they will have to navigate, and it depends on the personality of the designer. Sometimes people have a very clear vision. They have a signature style. Then they can exactly say this is not going at all. Sometimes it's aligned with your vision and it's a good idea. Well, it's not like client can never tell you good ideas. Clients tell you great ideas, and it's a collaborative process. But yes, an overdose of referencing which don't make sense, that becomes a problem. Right? So I'm sure and especially if designers who are practicing have had a good learning experience in one or two offices they've worked before they start. That's one thing I advise. I started very young. I started without much of education, experience in design. I don't recommend that to anybody. Please work absolute minimum of 5, 7, 8 years. 10 years, great. Then you start. Then you will not be addressing this problem. You'll be addressing this problem beautifully, because you've gone through. You've done from a drawing board, you've gone to sites, you've sat in meetings, you've seen how your boss handled it, you've seen how your senior designer handled it. Then you will learn. But if you passed out college, did some freelance and started, that's where the challenge is.
Wonderful. So I think this is a good advice. Coming to business of design. Business of design isn't the same as manufacturing or other work. So when you started in all these 30 years, did you learn business of design, the business aspect of your work on the go?
Absolutely. I learned everything on the go. Whether it's services, when we started our projects back then for residential, we never even had an MEP consultant. Now the number of consultants in a project, right? So you're constantly learning and evolving and changing with times, and to stay relevant, any profession, you have to be learning constantly. A few years ago, again, part of my unlearning and part of my pause, I went and did a program in the Harvard Graduate School of Design for 6 weeks. I stayed in a studio apartment. I walked to college. I cooked myself. I lived a life diametrically opposite. And people ask me what I learned. I went for unlearning. I really went for unlearning. I hung around with young people. You have very short programs for experienced designers. I didn't do that. I took a course with young people discover themselves. Part of my unlearning was to do that. I learned a lot of things also, but when I was at it, my most difficult challenge is unlearning, because I had already rigid ways of doing things, right ways of doing things, and it was a beautiful experience. Here I drive, I'm chauffeur driven to work. There I was walking. Here I have a cook to clean, maid, everything, nothing, cook, cleaning, everything I had to do myself. Here I give instructions. There I was taking my TA's instructions. So it was such a beautiful experience for someone in late 40s to go do that. And so it's constantly important to challenge yourself, do different things, because they have an impact on what you're doing here. So I've gone and attended conferences also, very random. I had some friends staying with me, and they were attending a conference near my house on palliative care, cancer care. And they were saying, why don't you come and attend? I'm like, what will I do? But I went and attended some sessions. And from that session, I learned something so beautifully that I implemented. Everybody is always worried about the patient, right? And that's how you look at life. They talked about the caregiver, saying how the caregiver needs attention. So in that now, when I meet anybody I always make it a point to show affection, care, support the caregiver. Something so simple, but I never learned it till I attended a conference. So I do things which are very different. So to do different things, you don't do them differently. You do completely different things, and you bring that learning into this.
So from what learning, what kind of perspective change will bring to your own work, your own life, your own way of seeing things, and your own way of doing things and experiencing.
I don't just design. I try and do very different things. Go take a cooking class, do something else, just do different things.
So
I just went last week to Hong Kong for the art bars in Hong Kong. Then I went to the M Plus Museum. I went to the whole prison tycoon. I went to a Mills area. It was design, art, had a lot of fun. I just let myself relax, and you should allow yourself to blossom at every stage. You should be joyful. You should be blissful. Then the best of you comes out. If you're stressed out, target oriented, you're a machine. Don't make yourself a machine. Every day is different. Every hour the sunlight color is different. Trees change colors, flowers change color, the sky changes color. That is what you should be like. Every day is a new day. Every day is hope.
Yeah. So summing this up, if you have to give a message to to Supraja, who is a 20-year-old, what did you tell her? Would you tell her this, to pause?
To take life easy.
And she wants to actually run and do a lot of things
just
together.
Take a life a little easy. Okay. I would have said that. I would say that. I beat myself a lot to do a lot of that. Also see, I'm someone who is ambitious, I'm driven, I'm hungry, and still am. But as a 20-year-old, to do things out there is a lot more.
Yes, because you have not seen that kind of life at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Now you
and
have a bird's eye view.
At least a bit better, you can see a lot. Couldn't.
Okay, so...
But I enjoyed. I've had a great life. I'm just more than grateful to what life has offered to me and the opportunities I've had.
So
even the challenges I've had. No challenge has ever gone waste.
So if given a chance, and if you get a chance to do something beyond design and everything, maybe for the society, what would you choose to do and why?
Indian politics.
Would you like to enter politics? To do some, to make some change?
So I would like to enter politics only to make change, not to make noise. So I remember as a child, I've always said that. I don't know what happened, where from a very young age I said I will join politics. And I remember when I was in my late 20s with someone very prominent, Prime Minister of India, their daughter is a good friend of ours, and we're all gone for a breakfast. And my husband just declared to them that, Supraja would join politics. So she looked at me and said, wow. And I just said, not now, 15 years later. And she was surprised that I could say that 15 years later so easily, because I'm like, okay, I will do it when I finish my responsibilities as a mother. I'm not going to be tearing myself apart. And I had clarity in my 20s that when people asked me which party will you join, I said I will join the party in power, because I don't want to sit and make noise. I want to make change. And I said this all in my 20s and 30s. Now I will think, because the values have to be aligned. You can't join a political party without having your values aligned. And I want to be able to make a solid change. It's not for name and fame. It's definitely not for money. It is to make a change.
And with so much of energy and so much of positivity, I would say, and so much of, the ability to look in the details and to work extensively. I think, you must do something what you have been thinking for.
Well, I'm going to go with the flow. Yes. Definitely, I'm here to stay. I still have a lot more in me to give. So whether it's art, design, and just living a beautiful life.
Yes. So it's been a wonderful time talking to you, and I'm looking forward to, getting more updates day in and day out about what you are doing.
I've got
your
some things up my sleeve. I get bored a little easily. I'll always like to reinvent and do something or the other. I do trial and errors. I've failed in some of my entrepreneurial ventures, which didn't take off, which obviously nobody knows because it didn't take off that much, or did. But I don't. Every few years, I'm like, what next?
Okay, so the last question, branching out from what you've just said. There are a lot of people, after a certain failure or something, they stop, or they think that they're not good enough. And a lot of things, So what's your advice for them?
Success is one step beyond quitting. Every time something doesn't work out and you fail, you say that. Go one step karke, that saying will help you go 10 steps or even 100 steps. And I say that to myself every time. Success is one step beyond quitting. Take that one step. Nice.
So keep taking one step.
Absolutely.
Each. Yeah.
Nobody in the history who's been successful has never been failed. In fact, someone who's been successful in one go may not have lasted for decades.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so
and
much.
Looking forward
to
getting
wonderful chatting with you.
Yeah.